Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Mayor Mays.
Welcome everyone to the February 14th, 2022 special Valentine's Day edition of the City Council meeting. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And with that, I'd like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Councillor Long,
Here.
Councillor McLaughlin,
Present.
Councillor Runyon,
Present.
Councillor Randall,
Present.
Councillor Richardson. I'm admitting him. And Mayor Mays.
I am present. Is Councilor Richardson with us?
Should be.
I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Okay, we're ready to go. Item 4 is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Well, did we want to do the Pledge of Allegiance, Mayor Mays?
Yes, we do want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for pointing that out, Councilor McLaughlin. And with that, I would like to ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Would you stand and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor. And now, item 4, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councilor Long.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilor Long and seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
I, McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Before we get to item 5, I would like to say a few words about 2 city residents who passed away recently, citizens who were quite involved with the Dallas community and will be missed. I'm talking about Doug Leash and John Frederick. Doug Leash was a resident of the Dalles since 1962. He taught at the Dalles High School for 32 years. He loved and appreciated art and created many wonderful works of art himself. He was very involved with the preservation of the old St. Peter's landmark, not only in the preservation, but also in the fixing, repairing, and beautifying this community treasure. And Doug also served on the city's Historic Landmark Commission for many years. John Frederick. John was a member of the city's Urban Renewal Board of Directors. He was also instrumental in the founding of the Dalles High School Booster Club and kept score at many of the community sporting events, namely football and basketball, and was also an active participant in the community meals program. Both Doug and John will be missed and also appreciated for all they did from our community.
Here.
Okay, item 5, presentations and proclamations. With us, we have Kenny LaPointe, who is the director of the Mid-Columbia Community Action Council, to give a presentation. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. LaPointe. There he is. I think the city clerk will unmute you, Kenny. There you go.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor Mays, members of the Dallas City Council. My name is Kenny LaPointe. I'm the Executive Director of Mid-Columbia Community Action Council. I am here this evening to provide you with a presentation to go over some of the work that we have been doing as an agency in the community and also talk about the Navigation Center. So with that, I'm going to just share my screen. So I'm going to kind of skip over a few of these slides that I think you've probably seen before and focus on sort of the critical ones as we move through here. So I wanted to remind folks who we are. Mid-Columbia Community Action is your community action agency. We serve Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties, and we do that by providing housing, shelter, household utility, and home weatherization assistance to low-income and houseless community members. And our primary funding comes from state and federal sources, but we're also funded locally in some ways. Our mission is to build a better future for our community through partnership and equity-centered programs that prevent and eliminate poverty and houselessness. So before I get into sort of the heart of the presentation on the Navigation Center, I wanted to give you all an overview of the work that we've done over the past year, the work that we did in 2021. So in 2021, we were able to provide over $4 million in direct client assistance to over 4,000 community members across our 3-county service territory, with a majority of the services going to Wasco County. That dollar figure is an increase from about $2.5 million in the year 2020. So we were able to increase the amount of resources that came into the community. I like to remind folks that a lot of these funds went to local businesses, went to local landlords, and really helped to infuse the economy. In some cases, I would say, we helped hotels that may have been struggling during COVID-19, and we also helped landlords that may have been struggling to get rent because we were able to pay rent on behalf of many households throughout the region. We updated our website, which means a lot to me. It's a very nice website compared to what we had before. It's much more usable. It's got great language access, and it's got some good functionality on it as far as being able to apply for resources online, which is something we didn't have in place before. We were all paper before, so folks had to really come to our door or have access to a fax machine, which I didn't even know existed anymore. So we are super happy that we have been able to improve our ability for folks to apply. We invested over $6 million into our community. So I mentioned the $4 million in services provided. That's $6 million. It's talking about the staffing and the support that we provided to our own team. So we went from a staff of 9 in 2020 to we're approaching 27 people right now. So we've really increased the number, and that's full-time staff. We're really increasing the number of folks on our team that are able to live and work in the same community, and we're paying them living wages. So this is a big deal for us because this is also reinvesting in the community. Through our weatherization and utility programs, we served 2,713 people. 46.4% of those participants were Native, people of color, or Latinx community members. We were also able to weatherize 17 homes. Weatherization resources are much smaller and our projects are much larger. So the average weatherization of a home is around $20,000 to $25,000. In addition, with our housing programs, last year, we were able to serve 1,300 households with housing assistance to ensure that they don't experience homelessness or that we're able to end homelessness for them. We were able to provide 488 households with rent assistance through a partnership with the Mid-Columbia Housing Authority, so that prevented eviction for those families. And that was nearly $1 million in rent assistance paid to local landlords to prevent eviction and financial disruption to the economy. On the shelter side of things, we really increased the number of shelter nights, largely thanks to the City Council, the City of the Dalles, for all their advocacy and work to ensure that the Dalles shelter was able to stay where it is and also increase in size. We went from in 2020 of having around 7,000 shelter bed nights available in the 3-county region to this in 2021, we had nearly 21,000 hotel or shelter bed nights throughout the 3-county area. In our Dalles shelter facility, we were also able to transition 21 of those shelter clients into permanent housing. So we served 81 folks throughout the year in 2021, but we transitioned 21 of them into permanent housing. So that's a big success. And also really worth noting is the fact that the shelter model that we utilize, the non-congregate shelter model, was really set up to prevent and mitigate the impacts of COVID-19. We did so by holding multiple vaccination clinics. We tested folks frequently to ensure that they weren't contracting COVID, and if they did, we could prevent it from spreading further. But I'm happy to report that we didn't have a single person who tested positive for COVID-19 in 2021, even though there was some significant, especially at the end of 21, there was some significant outbreaks of COVID-19. I also just want to mention our veteran program. So we served 18 veteran households. We're increasing that program size. This year, we've added an additional case manager, which means we can serve 18 to 20 more folks. We were able to place 5 veteran households into permanent housing and prevented eviction for 3 of them. Many of you know that we also own the Hamilton Apartments, or formerly the Hamilton Hotel. That property has been fully occupied and serves 10 veteran families there. So the next sort of aspect of the work that we're doing, which is sort of, if I go back here, is our future. So part of the future of Mid-Columbia Community Action is the Dalles Navigation Center, which is why I'm here to talk to you tonight. So many of you know that we received $1.5 million from the Oregon legislature in 2021 through House Bill 5006, coined the Christmas tree bill. That funding was really the kickoff for us to think about and envision what it might look like to have a navigation center in the Dalles. Now, I'll answer the question of what is the navigation center, since you're all wondering this. A navigation center, the way we've defined it, is it's a shelter that has multiple agency offices co-located in one site, with those agencies' offices supporting the service needs of folks experiencing poverty or houselessness, including those who are residing in our shelter. So we're in some ways creating a one-stop shop for folks where they're not having to run all over the community to access an array of different services. We're putting all those services into one place to create ease of use and access for them, and also to better address the needs of the folks who are living in our shelter. The agencies that we're currently working with, and I will note that this is all tentative, but they've been all involved in the planning process. As we get further down the road, we'll start nailing down agreements on who all is going to be in the building, but we do have some fairly firm commitments from the next door, the Mid-Columbia Housing Authority, the Oregon Human Development Corporation will be actually moving its Dalles offices into our office, and they specialize in serving agricultural workers and the Latinx population. Bridges to Health, which is a program of the Columbia Gorge Health Council, the Mid-Columbia Center for Living, which I will just flag and note that the partnership between Mid-Columbia Community Action and the Mid-Columbia Center for Living is an incredibly important one. The services provided with Mid-Columbia Center for Living married up with the shelter and housing case management services provided at Mid-Columbia Community Action, are a tool and key. They're very key to the success of the folks that we are going to be serving at the Navigation Center, and is key to the success of the folks that we're serving at the current shelter site. We also have One Community Health. Our federally qualified health clinic will be providing physical health services as well as telehealth, physical health, and behavioral health services at the Navigation Center. I mentioned the Columbia Gorge Health Council, and then Nichiwana Housing, which is an agency that works with Native community members who are living along the river. Many of them at the Inlu sites. Nichiwana Housing helps connect Native community members to the resources that we're providing at Mid-Columbia Community Action and through our partner agencies. So I kind of talked about the vision of the Navigation Center as a one-stop shop. It's really to bring all the services underneath one roof where we can provide them easier for clients. If you can just imagine a client experience, you walk in the door to receive services, you have multiple agencies in a building, you meet with one case manager. That case manager recognizes that you have the need to get some behavioral health services, walks across the hall, connects with that behavioral health provider, and hands that person off to the behavioral health provider to then assess their behavioral health needs. I'll talk more about sort of the project overlay and some of the things that we're going to tie into the project, which will actually have even more of an impact than just resource service connection. So right now we've come a long way since we started working on this project. We've identified our core project team, which is the Housing Development Center. They do housing, affordable housing development across the state, as well as social service facilities development. We also are working with Access Architecture, which is a business owned by, it's a minority-owned business out of the Vancouver area. And then we're working with Bremick Construction as our general contractor. Many of you are probably familiar with Bremick. They have a presence in the region. They've done anything from the community college to One Community Health building to the Do First School. Those are all projects, which I'll show you in a minute, that Bremick Construction has done. We also selected them because they have a lot of subcontractors in the region. And one of the core values, as identified below, is that we are able to continue to reinvest in the community through the subcontractor selection process, as well as selecting businesses owned by veterans, women, Native community members, Latinx community members, and people of color. We're also, as we work through the design process, we're emphasizing a trauma-informed and equity-centered design. So how we lay out spaces is going to be really important in how people feel when they come into those spaces, and we're very attentive to that. That's something that Access Architecture has very good experience in. So we've been working again with our program partners, working on programming. We've had a number of sessions with all of our program partners to talk about the core values of the spaces that we're building out. As we've met with them and brainstormed that in conjunction with our development consultants, these 5 things below are the top needs that were identified from our program partners. And I will note that this also included people with lived experience of homelessness. So we incorporated them into the process and actually have had them in our programming meetings each time. So a community space for large gatherings and meetings was identified as a huge community need, as well as a career resource center and computer lab where people can apply for jobs and work on resume building. Having classroom spaces where we could teach things like ready-to-rent courses, financial management and budgeting, as well as giving folks opportunities to go back and get their GED or go to post-secondary education. Those are also spaces that we felt were very important through the programming process. In addition, a commercial kitchen that could provide meal services to the residents of the shelter site, as well as serve as potential catering space, or if there was a catering of a larger gathering or event at the site. And then drop-in childcare is another thing that was mentioned. Again, if we go back and imagine entering a social service center as a family with children and needing to go have some pretty deep conversations with social workers and case managers, those are often things that you don't want your children to be sitting next to you while you're discussing. And so having drop-in childcare space was identified as a very a much needed thing. So this is probably something that a lot of folks have been kind of eager to hear about, is the location. And there's been a few locations that have probably run through the rumor mill. Some of them are possibly even being worked on. We landed on this 2.6 acres of land off of 7th Street, so 2505 West 7th Street. It's a vacant piece of land. We're very, very fortunate that a community member donated this property to Mid-Columbia Community Action, and it's been deeded over to us. It's a great site, large, has the ability to meet really all the needs that we have for the site. So that is the site we've been working on. We've already been doing some sort of background pre-development work on that site, and we do have a pre-planning meeting set up with Alice in the planning department coming up here soon. Here is a site plan with a rendering of our design on the project. I will note that there is one thing you don't see here, and that is that beyond, sort of if you went to the top of your screen here, there is actually another acre of vacant land that will be left there, that we are maintaining flexibility with it in anticipation that we will expand or even create affordable housing opportunities on the site. So we could bring affordable housing there that would have all the services ready right there on the site. But if I sort of start from the West 7th Street side there, you have obviously the Navigation Center building. You have parking there. We wanted to make sure there was plenty of parking both for staff as well as some parking spots for folks who are accessing the shelter. I know that's come up repeatedly as a need for shelter clients. It's definitely a need that it's been difficult to address at our current location, and this location will help us address parking. We also have built-in bike spaces for folks here. The building in size is close to 14,000 square feet. It's pretty large, but I will note that, again, we have multiple agencies that are going to be under one roof. So totally necessary to have multiple agencies in there. And as I mentioned before, those top 5 needs that we identified in the programming process, we anticipate meeting in the building itself. So having a childcare space that would be right to the left as you walk into the Navigation Center, also having a commercial kitchen and community meeting space will all be tied in as well. Sort of the back side of the building opens up to a community garden space, which creates a barrier between the actual shelter and the Navigation Center. We felt it was important to have a barrier. We're not putting folks on display because they are living there. We want to make sure they're able to maintain some privacy. So we have some community gardens, which is going to be a great opportunity, I think, for the community to get involved in this project. In addition, B on the backside is our mobile shower truck, which we will station here as the restroom facilities on the site. It has 3 restrooms, which are 3 shower bathroom stalls and 1 ADA unit that can be used for somebody with a wheelchair. And this is on the backside is where our shelters would go. Back beyond, again, it's going to be open space as we anticipate having a future where there is affordable housing on this property. Should we be able to successfully get funding, which I am always confident in. We will maintain the backside so it can be used in some ways for like walking paths, and folks have a peaceful area to take a break, get away, both for staff and for shelter clients. We all need places where we can get away and take a breather sometimes. So Those are sort of the main things that I wanted to make sure and mentioned as incorporated into the building. But the design was very intentional to ensure that there is collaboration amongst the many community partners that'll be in here, and that there is an open feel for the folks who are accessing the services. Again, trauma-informed design. And also, I will note that there is a computer lab and job training center that will be going into the site as well. So that is a critical component in order for us to help address the employment and the housing needs of folks who will be staying in the shelter site and folks who will be accessing the navigation center. I think folks know, and if they don't, I'll let you know that if every person who comes and stays in our shelter site is required to enter a housing case management plan, and our housing team and shelter teams meet every Wednesday afternoon to case conference all of the folks living at the shelter. So they're talking about how are they going to meet the needs of those individuals staying in the shelter in order to help them get into permanent housing. And sometimes those needs go beyond housing, and we're connecting them with health services or behavioral health services in conjunction with the partners that I've already mentioned. Here is a few examples. I'm not going to linger here too long, especially because the quality of the pictures is not great. I encourage you, if you're interested in seeing more about Bremick's work in the region, going onto the Bremick website and taking a look at their projects. They're beautiful projects. They do a great job on design. I wanted to make sure that this project was reflective of where we are going as a community and make sure that it seamlessly fits into the community. We're not wanting to create, additional or any blight at all in the community. We want to create something that is visually appealing, comfortable, and the community can really get on board with. So now comes the best part, the cost part. So as we've worked through this process, we've been able to raise, and this has gone up actually $50,000 in the last week since I submitted this presentation, but we're at 2.8 million in resources that we've been able to get so far. And we are estimating that our costs for completion are going to be at 5.8 million. We do have multiple avenues to get to 5.8 million, and we are working through all of those. Of course, there's trade-offs for each of those as we look at them. So we're trying to assess which funding source is going to be the most compatible with the project. We want to maintain the project's individuality as much as possible and not compromise on that. So that is why we're really taking a look at the multiple funding streams that are available for this. Again, we started out with the 1.5 million from the Oregon legislature. You all had dedicated 500,000 sort of pending me coming to you and showing you that I'm for real and we have a project that we're working on. We also received some funding from the Oregon Health Authority as a planning grant. That Oregon Health Authority planning grant opens the door for over $100 million in resources from the Oregon Health Authority. Our partner, the Oregon Human Development Corporation, is also contributing $400,000. And then we are planning to convert the existing equity in our offices and some real estate equity that we have also banked. So those are some of the resources. Those are all the resources right now that are going into the project. We are also talking with Business Oregon about the potential for utilizing CDBG funding in this project. It's a very viable resource. Those of you who've worked with CDBG know it's a very complicated resource, and there's lots of strings attached. Nothing that we can't get around, but it is a viable source, and Business Oregon is very interested in the project. So these, again, are the other potentials that I mentioned. There's a few others on this list that I'm not mentioning quite yet right now. Oregon Housing and Community Services is also going to be putting out an additional $500,000 that are dedicated towards navigation centers. We are targeting that resource to go towards operating support for the first few years of the navigation center operations. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have, or to go back on any slides if anybody would like me to go over any of them again.
Thank you, Kenny. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Any on the council?
Can we unshare the screen so we can see each other?
Thank you. Please.
There we go. I have a question.
Yeah, Councilor Runyon.
And I know it's way early in the process and you don't have, binding agreements. You have a few that are very likely to go into this facility. How will that work out? Will it be a rent situation for those agencies? Some of them own their own buildings now. What's the draw to bring them to be there other than all being together, which is a big one, but there's some financial planning to be done as well.
Yeah, great question, Councilor Runyon. So first of all, not every agency on that list is picking up all their stuff and moving their shop to this. They're going to be co-locating some of their staff that has a strong connection to the work that we're doing and the clients that we're serving. So Center for Living will still have its building. There are some of the agencies on the list do intend to move their operations to this site. As far as an agreement goes, I have every intention of making this a debt-free project, and the contribution from the partners would likely be an operating contribution on an ongoing basis where we're all sharing together in the ongoing operations and maintenance of the project.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the city council? Councilor Long?
Yeah, so Mr. LaPointe, I was wondering, have you asked other places like Hood River, the city, the county, Wasco County, Warm Springs, even South County to chip in? Because so far I only see the Dalles as a government agency, and I know that clients come from all over those areas here because we are the main service point and we are the main shelter.
So, Councilor Long Curtis, thanks for the question. This is my first roadshow stop. So you all got the chance to be the first. I've been waiting to come to a council meeting till I had more details, to be fair to you and fair to myself, so I don't get hammered by questions I don't have the answers to. I wanted to make sure that I had a site rendering so you could envision what the project might look like, as well as details on our general contractor and not just the concept that was in my head. So next stop is the Wasco County Commission meeting on Wednesday, and I'm also talking to the other communities in the region, but you all were the first stop.
Okay, that's great. I just know that that I had people coming from all of those areas, and so, and Sherman County too. So,
Any other questions for Mr. LaPointe from the council? How about the audience? Does anybody in the audience have a question? If you do, please make yourself known and raise your hand. Okay. I did have one sort of a question. I've noticed that I've been mayor since January of 2019, and it just seems that Mid-Columbia Community Action has really increased the number of services and programs, whether it's utility assistance, weatherization, the shelter programs you've mentioned, housing assistance, veteran services, the amount of money that's been brought into this community. Is it fair to say that there's been a vast increase in all those activities and monies coming in 2021 as compared to, say, 2019 and 20?
Mayor Mays, yeah, I would say we've seen a lot of impacts from COVID-related funding. So there's been a lot of COVID-related funding. I am not shy to ask for money either. Maybe I'm shameless. I'm just not shy to ask for money. I'm not shy to ask for grants. I'm not afraid to put partnerships together to get it done. I think, there's our strategic plan at Mid-Columbia Community Action is titled A New Era, and we are in a new era of doing business in the community. We are taking on homelessness in a much different way. We have really high hopes and expectations of people and our community. We relay those expectations into how we're providing services. We're very successful. Well, it's been challenging the last couple of years as we've taken this on and increased our staffing. We have a lot of hope in people, and we really feel like we can live out our mission of building a better future for our community, where things look a lot different. And I know that, and I really sort of hate to say this, that Portland has become the place that everybody looks at and says, I don't want my community to look like this. And for us, it's, we don't want our community to look like that. And I certainly hope that, that things improve in the Portland area. We expect better, and we expect more from people because we believe that they can do well. And that comes with us wrapping services around them and us supporting them through the process and expecting more. So we're really ramping things up. I think the state recognizes that. And I'm not ashamed, again, to go to the state, to other places and say, hey, we're doing the right thing. We're doing a good job. We're having an impact on people and we believe in them. So can you give us some money?
And when is it? What was the date you actually took over as director of Mid-Columbia Community Action?
I think it was November 16th, 2020.
Yeah. I guess you're not, you say you're not ashamed to ask for money, and I'll just make the point that you're probably too modest to take any credit for the vast improvement in services and money coming into this community. And I know you working with you, that you're not the kind that's going to blow your own horn, so I'll blow it for you. I think you've done great work, and I applaud you for it. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, thank you, Kenny, very much for your presentation.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, item 6 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on any subject which is not on the agenda for up to 5 minutes? If you do, please make yourself known and raise your hand or speak up. Anybody?
Mayor Mays, Colleen Ballinger.
Colleen Ballinger. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand raised. Go ahead, Ms. Ballinger. Please state
Hi.
your name and your address for the record.
My name is Colleen Ballinger. I live at 1015 Lincoln Street, and I've lived in the Dalles for over 40 years. And even though I wasn't planning to follow Kenny, I just really want to say that I really appreciate the word partnership that he used in that, and it feels like the cavalry is coming. My intention tonight is to provide a more accurate understanding of the organization and the work of the St. Vincent de Paul Society in our community by sharing some frontline perspective. I also hope to clarify our relationship with the different organizations that operate out of our facilities. Until joining the St. Vincent de Paul board this year, I was very confused about who was who and who did what and where they did it. Here's what I've learned about the workings of the different entities. Downtown on West 3rd Place is the St. Vincent de Paul Ministry Building. This is where St. Vincent de Paul has functioned for over 30 years, serving the poor and disadvantaged, providing showers, basic hygiene products, laundry, meals, clothing, tents, sleeping bags, blankets, and vouchers for more clothing, temporary housing, household items, propane, and gas. Also operating in the ministry building are 2 independent organizations. Bread and Blessings is a local organization that receives private donations of money and food from which they serve breakfast Monday through Friday. A recent resource guide for the Columbia Gorge inaccurately listed them as providing gas and hotel vouchers. Community Meals, another local volunteer organization, also operates in the St. Vincent de Paul Ministry building, serving dinner to anyone every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday year-round, now including delivery of dinners to the pallet homes. Recently, when I had to call the police to dispose of live ammunition we had found in our building, the dispatcher acknowledged our location by saying, "Oh, you mean the Community Meals building?" In spite of the lighted sign advertising Community Meal, it is the St. Vincent de Paul Ministry building in which Community Meals program operates. That same resource guide I mentioned earlier lists St. Vincent de Paul together with Community Meals serving on West 9th Street, which is also inaccurate. To further add to the confusion, there is a St. Vinny's thrift store on West 9th Street that is now operated by the Lane County St. Vincent de Paul Conference. Then in the basement of the thrift store is our food pantry, another ministry of our local St. Vincent de Paul Conference, where volunteers have set up a grocery shopping experience with limited hours for any client who needs food. The food pantry is affiliated with the Oregon Food Bank. Our downtown ministry building has become equipped for many years to handle the unfortunate circumstances that happen when a family is down on their luck or a person is having a hard time making ends meet or a crisis has happened. We also help people with obtaining ID cards, getting temporary housing in a hotel, providing food, and help with rent to prevent another person on the streets. We also provide lunches, including daily delivery, to the residents at the pallet homes. In the past year, the number of people and the needs of the people we serve has increased with a growing addiction rate and more untreated mental illness. More and more of our clients are those who have fallen through the cracks of public assistance, and St. Vincent de Paul is often the net that catches them. We met the city's request to provide a place for the unhoused to sleep during the cold nights with our warming place. In our small dining room, all the tables and chairs are folded up. They are then replaced with cots and very grateful bodies. We pulled together an amazing team of paid staff and volunteers who set up, take down, and clean every single night we are open, and again in the morning. The warming place is at capacity every night. After an exhausting winter, our volunteers and paid staff have experienced some burnout. Our clientele include people who are incontinent, people with draining wounds, people with scabies and lice, chronic coughs, respiratory infections, not to mention the complexities of COVID protocols. 20 years ago, a person or family could be helped into an affordable apartment using their Social Security check supplemented by a Section 8 housing voucher. Due to rising rents and unavailable affordable housing, we have no long-term solutions to offer our unhoused. Except the Navigation Center now gives me so much hope. Addictions are also more challenging with new street drugs. We encounter needles and syringes all over our property. With the growing numbers of people who congregate on our back lot, a few weeks ago, we found it necessary to install 2 porta potties. Days later, it became apparent that they were severely overused, and we had to double that to 4 sanitary units with twice weekly servicing, which cost $900 a month. Many of the people who gather at our new outdoor covered area really need a treatment center. We are not equipped to deal with the advanced needs of debilitating mental illness. We are dealing with the chronic pain of hallucinations and the loud suffering of those who are delusional. Our clients are experiencing real emotional, soul-crushing pain. They have unmanaged diagnoses of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, paranoia, developmental delays, to name a few. When these folks are put together without coping skills to huddle in small groups outside the ministry building to survive the elements, it can become a volatile situation and a threat to the peace and safety of our neighbors. Our St. Vincent de Paul staff, volunteers, and board members often feel as helpless as our clients do. At times, we are simply overwhelmed, but we carry on to the best of our ability. Thank you very much for listening. The Dalles is a wonderful and generous community, and we are committed to working with you to preserve that fact. I will leave you with a challenge from an old Irish proverb. 'Tis in the shelter of each other that people live. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Ballinger? Thank you very much for your presentation. And I know I speak for everyone when we tell you that we appreciate your service on the St. Vincent Board of Directors. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the City Council for up to 5 minutes about any subject that is not on the agenda? Is Alan and Bev, is that your hand raised? I guess Mr. Ege, did you want to speak to the council, or I guess maybe I thought you raised your hand, maybe you didn't. Anybody else? Judy Merrill, go ahead, Ms. Merrill. Wait for Izetta to unmute you, please. Please now give your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Judy Merrill. I'm a retired RN, and I have lived in the Dells for 22 years. My address is 400 West 11th Street. I have come before City Council several times in recent years, and I'm speaking again on behalf of concerned citizens regarding the lack of public restroom facilities in the downtown area. The lack of adequate facilities has now become a public health crisis. I contacted the city manager, Julie Kruger, 2 weeks ago, and she told me that the new restroom in the Veterans Office has now been completed with an outside entrance and will open shortly. This restroom will be open to the public 24/7 and will be maintained by staff. This is a great step toward adequate facilities. As some of you may recall, when I first came to the City Council in May of 2018, I had already been researching public restrooms for about 2 years. When our group first formed, we learned that Councilor McLaughlin had in fact been researching the possibility of a public restroom for nearly 2 years prior. There was positive discussion of a safe, accessible, high visibility location for the restroom. In 2018, and still today, I am proposing the City of the Dalles purchase and install a 24/7 public restroom called the Loo, which has been successfully tested and used in Portland since 2008 and many other cities in the United States and Canada. We chose this specific permanently installed restroom for its proven design features. Here are a few highlights. It is constructed of stainless steel for durability and ease of cleaning. The design provides a single toilet with space to accommodate a wheelchair, stroller. It is vandalism resistant surfaces and a secure one-way sharps receptacle for used needles. Simplicity and durability of the design dramatically reduces the maintenance costs. Since my last visit to the City Council a year ago in January 2021, the need for public toilets has grown immensely. It is evident to anyone in town that the encampments and houseless populations has grown. There is also an increased need for public restrooms due to COVID shutdowns. While I was volunteering to help clean at the downtown St. Vincent de Paul Ministry building during closed hours a few weeks ago, a man was banging on the door, begging us to let him use the restroom, begging, so he would not have to defecate on the street. The ministry building, unfortunately, has very limited hours due to a serious shortage of volunteers, staff, and COVID concerns. I understand now that the city is budgeting several streams of public money, a great deal of money, much of which is undesignated. I am asking you to use some of those funds to install a durable restroom downtown that would be available to the public, easy to clean and maintain, is built to prevent vandalism, and that would provide an essential service to our residents, guests, and tourists. The quote at the bottom of the agenda for each city council meeting states, "By working together, we will provide services that enhance the vitality of the Dalles." This statement clearly implies that the city of the Dalles ought to provide adequate public restrooms in our downtown area. We strongly recommend that the city of the Dalles immediately budget for the loo restroom and its installation and maintenance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right on time, too. Any questions or comments from the city council? Councilor
Mayor.
Richardson.
Thank you. Judy, do you recall right off what that cost might be approximately for a loo?
I checked on it 2 weeks ago and it is $138,000.
Okay, any idea, has there been any discussion that you're aware of what maintenance might run?
I do have all that information in my file and I could get that to you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Is that 138 for one? That's for one unit, right? Is there a discount for two?
Several years ago when Evan and I were talking, he said that might be up for discussion.
And who would Evan be?
Evan is the sales manager that came and did several presentations for the city council and also for different public meetings that we had, where there was about 30 to 40 people that attended.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from anybody? Councilor Long.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say that I'm supportive of this. I had actually just emailed the city manager about the possibility of including something like this in our budget. We've had such a need and it's increased exponentially. And now with COVID, not only has the need increased, but we also see fewer public restrooms available. Restaurants and other places that used to let people use their bathrooms during business hours aren't even able to do that anymore. So I feel like this is really something that we need to get started on. And it doesn't just benefit homeless people. It helps everybody shopping downtown or tourists coming off the boats or anyone really in our town looking for a restroom.
Okay, any other comments or questions? We have at least one counselor that's interested in getting this included in the 2022-23 budget. Is there any others? It seems to me if we get a consensus of the council, we can ask the city manager to include that and have it be an item of discussion at the budget committee meeting in May.
I would support that.
Okay.
The same, I would support it. I mean, there's a couple of other pieces besides purchase, like location and maintenance, obviously, but I would support that, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Runyon?
Yeah, just as it says on our agenda, I think all of those things and some other questions that Councilor Richardson brought up should be presented to our city manager to review and come back with an idea on that. And then if it makes sense, and it sounds like it should, but that's the process to get it into the budget and whatnot, and give people an opportunity to put their 2 cents in and so forth. So that's the direction I'd like to go, is to see that go to the city manager for review and go from there.
My position, Mayor Mays, is, yes, I'm unmuted. It would be to look and see how the transportation center functions and do a review. And I would agree with Councilor Runyon that we follow the procedure. So, yes.
I thought I'd already been to the city manager, but go ahead, Julie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It has been to the city manager. Did not put money in the budget this year for that because we're just getting ready to open that Veterans Service Office public restroom. And so I would hesitate, if you're all nodding your head, I would hesitate to say, have me bring something back. We have plenty of information to give an estimate, and it's probably going to be around 200,000, easy enough with the installation. We have to bring water and sewer to it. We have to bring electricity to it. We have to pay someone to clean it. So if I bring it back, I think we're going to miss our own budget deadline for staff because we're almost at our deadline right now for adding in projects. So let me work with staff this week and we'll put some kind of a placeholder in. And then that still gives you the opportunity to have all this discussion at your budget committee meetings, but you don't have to fight for the money because it will be there if you decide that's what you want to do. Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
That makes good sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. We do have our future projects line items. So what we may do, we'll take a look at it, the finance director and I, but what we'll do is take a look at that and see if we can pull some funds out of that, put it into a line item as a placeholder until you get through the budget process.
Thank you.
Okay, Judy,
you.
if I were you, I'd try to keep tabs on when the budget committee meets so that you can attend.
Okay.
If you're interested. Okay. Anything else? Anybody questions or comments? Thank you, Judy, for coming.
Thank you, everybody, for your input and your support.
Okay, item set, oh, I'm sorry. We're still on audience participation. Anybody else that would like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes on anything not on the agenda? Last call. Okay, I don't see anyone. Item 7, city manager's report. Ms. Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I have a few items for you tonight, but I think I'll be fairly quick with them. First of all, I neglected to tell you in my council report last week that we have purchased our first hybrid car for the city of the Dalles. So we're making a small, Dave's happy I remembered. We're making a first effort on our vehicle fleet to do some green. And so the Public Works Department needed to purchase a new engineering department vehicle. And so that has been purchased and it's in use now. Good job, Dave. The second item, I believe I did mention to you in my report last week that we'd like to use $13,200 of our safety line item funds to purchase some ballistic vests for the police department, as we realize several of them have expired. And while that's within my budget authority to do, the city council set up that line item that they would make all those approvals. So I would ask for a motion or consensus tonight to spend that $13,200.
Anybody want to make the motion or have questions of the city manager regarding that particular issue?
Councilor Runyon, I move to go ahead.
Thank you.
And I'll second. McLaughlin will second.
It's been moved by Council Runyon and seconded by Council McLaughlin to authorize the $13,000 for the vests for the police department. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye, McLaughlin.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Ms. Kruger?
One last item. As you're all aware, the Wall Dogs Mural Fest is coming to the Dalles this year. The city has been very supportive of and a partner, financial partner. We did a sponsorship for them in the current year's budget. So they are now at the point where they have to go before historic landmarks with each separate application and pay a fee. That right here. The fee is $85 per mural. And to get approval for those before we have the festival. So I have a request from some of the members of the mural committee or the Wall Dogs committee, pardon me, to waive those fees, and there are only 9 possible locations that will still need approval from historic landmarks. So we're asking you to waive a total of $765 in fees to the city to just continue being a good partner for this festival. And also just consensus would be fine from you, or if someone wants to make a motion, that would be fine too.
Any comments or questions?
Let's waive the fees, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
My comment.
Councilor McLaughlin?
I'm in favor.
Okay. Anybody opposed? Councilor Runyon's okay? Okay. Councilor Long is
good.
shaking your head. Councilor Randall, you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Terrific.
You have consensus.
Thank you very much. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item 8 is city council reports. We'll start with Councilor Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On January 26th, the Historic Landmarks Commission met and elected officers Bob McNary as chair and Forrest Urkel as vice chair. The commission approved 2 applications from the Dalles Main Street and Wall Dogs to paint murals, one on the south-facing alley wall at 320 East 2nd Street and the other on the east-facing wall at 401 West 4th Street. 2 more requests for murals will be considered at the February 23rd meeting, and one of them will be on the Dallas Police Department building at 401 Court Street. The commission also reviewed and agreed upon short and long-term goals. Some of the highlights of those goals are preservation, restoration, and continued use of the Civic Auditorium, City Hall, the Dallas High School and Colonel Wright Elementary School, and Pioneer Cemetery. On January 27th, the board of Q Life met and elected officers Lee Weinstein, chair, Dale Lepper, vice chair, and Rod Runyon as secretary, amended a professional services contract, received a financial report and audit, and then went into executive session. No action was taken resulting from that session. And this afternoon, I met with Mayor Mays and Councilor McLaughlin for a briefing on upcoming events and issues. And that's my report.
Thank you, Councilor Randall. Councilor McLaughlin.
Oh, yes. Well, since the last meeting, I met with members of the regional airport. We had a airport meeting and a master planning gathering on Wednesday. It was last Wednesday, and it lasted about 4 hours. And tomorrow I have another meeting at the airport and urban renewal in the afternoon. Met with city manager Julie Kruger and Mayor Mays, and today I met with Councilor Scott Randall. And I have received emails concerning visioning process that I'm going to read into the record later on when it's the appropriate time. There's 2, and one from Judy Merrill and the other from, Lisa Navarra.
We can address that when I give the staff report for that, Councilor. I had a comment from another councilor as well. So we have done some research and we're going to provide you with some other information and options.
Excellent. All right. And then I'm continuing to monitor and work with representative of the Aislinn family. They are the owners of the property adjoining the airport that they're looking to promote a golf course and a large housing development in Dallasport. And that's ongoing conversations, and that's the representative will be here on Friday. That's my report for this council session.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Runyon.
Yes, and Tim, I think we all got those letters. I responded directly to folks, so myself, as far as that goes. Q Life meeting, Councilor Randall talked about the details on it. I think it was a moment or two getting my connection in, and so I got elected secretary and will be issued a uniform, I'm sure, before long.
So take that.
Also, let's see here, I had a meeting with the Wasco County Administrative Officer regarding SIP progress, Strategic Investment Plan progress, and issues related to that in the meetings that you, Mr. Mayor, are involved in that are coming up here in the next week and a half. Let's see what else we had. I met with the mayor on issues that are in the background and some in the future for the city to get an ongoing understanding. Beyond that, I'm on the board, and we had a meeting of the Columbia Gorge Veterans Museum, which just thankfully is located right in City Hall on the second floor, open on Fridays from 1 to 4, or other times by appointment at this moment. And then today I met with the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee, and actually I chair that committee, and that's, I think, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Long?
Yes, so I've had quite a few meetings with members of the public, some staff and city council members. And then one thing that I continue to be concerned about is our waste management contract. The last month, of course, they came to us and asked for a 5.05% increase, and we offered them 3%. But in reviewing that and getting some information from our attorney, that the contract was actually had some requirements about them turning in financial information that didn't seem that we were getting every year. And also the fact that it's a no bid contract. I would like to see us do an audit of that. There are companies that the League of Oregon Cities lists as partners on their website. And I think it would be prudent to do that, and then possibly, depending on the outcome of that, look at changing our contract so it matches some of the other cities that have caps on rate increases or whatever is appropriate based on whatever we find out. Because I don't know what the audit's going to show, but I just feel like that we really don't know. And every year we vote, but we really don't have much information to make such a decision and to know whether or not it's necessary and good for our citizens.
Okay.
And that's my report.
Okay. Councilor Richardson.
Thank you. Good evening. I've in the last couple of weeks met with or had conversations with several constituents on various things. Met with several of our department heads, including yourself, Mr. Mayor, to talk about issues ranging from potholes to buildings, airport, and things coming up on future, no doubt on future agendas. On January 28th, I participated in a community outreach team meeting where we discussed what various governments were doing, and also started or continued discussion about projects we would like to see some teamwork on. And then on the 7th, a week ago today, I met with members of the beautification, or rather I was invited by the beautification committee to participate. And they had a very fruitful discussion on some things they've been working on, including looking at street trees and what you might call street furniture. So benches, trash cans, and related items. And I think we'll be hearing more from them in the not too distant future. And that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. As far as my report, I did a radio interview with Mark Bailey at KACI on January 25th. I attended the aforementioned community outreach team meeting on January 28th. I made some opening remarks at the Chamber of Commerce Outstanding Citizens Award Banquet on the 27th. And I also had several meetings with citizens that may be interested in serving on city commissions and committees and boards. Okay, item 9, consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. One is the approval of the January 24th City Council meeting minutes. And the second one is a resolution concurring with my appointment of Lindsay Jamay to the Urban Renewal Board of Directors. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd move to approve the consent agenda, and good catch on convincing Ms. GMA to be involved. I think she will bring a very useful perspective to the board.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Counselor Richardson and seconded by Counselor Long to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Item 10, award of a contract for the purchase of materials for the Dog River Pipeline Replacement Project. Mr. Public Works Director Dave Anderson, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of council. We've just completed the 90% level of design for the project. We have submitted applications for permits to just under a half a dozen different state and federal agencies to allow the project to move forward. We are wrapping up the drafting of a contract to allow for the removal of the timber from the project corridor. So that's ready to be advertised soon. And we're currently scheduled to advertise the construction contract for the pipeline in March with an award in late April or early May. Construction for the project is scheduled to occur in 2022 and 2023. But to be able to complete the project that quickly, it was important to have the construction contractor be able to begin work as soon as possible after we award the contract this spring. And to facilitate that, the city advertised a separate contract to purchase the pipe in advance of awarding the construction contract, just the pipe that's needed for the 2022 construction season. By ordering that pipe early, the construction contractor will be able to avoid a delay of weeks or months after the award of the construction contract and allow them to begin work shortly after award. Staff's been working with the Port of the Dalles to be able to utilize a parcel of the port's property. They've been very gracious in offering that parcel to us to store the pipe throughout this upcoming construction season. We conducted a bid opening on January 28th and received 3 bids for the project. The low bid from Core and Main was deemed to be responsive and was for $951,882.45. Our current budget includes $10,500,000, excuse me, in the Water Reserve Fund for this project. The engineer's estimate, based upon our 90% design for the pipe purchase, was just under 1.2 million. So the purchase low bid price is less than the engineer's estimate and within the funds that are available for the project. With that, staff recommends that the city council move to authorize the city manager to enter into contract number 2022-002 for the purchase of pipe with Gore and Main LP in an amount not to exceed $951,882.45.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding this request?
I have a couple of brief ones, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson.
Good evening, Dave. 2 brief comments and I think a brief question. First of all, Yahoo! That's great news. Moving forward. Secondly, good contracting work there. I just want to call that out. It's not often we get in public projects 3 bids of this amount that close. So there's obviously some good communication and staff work there. Good job. And my last is just a sort of a process question. Have you worked with Core and Main before? And or if not, how do you check references on somebody like that?
So to my knowledge, the city has not worked with Core and Main. However, the design team, the Jacobs Engineering, has, and they've actually done quite a bit of work with them in the Denver area. Core and Main is a nationwide company. So we did actually check some references, and we're pretty comfortable with the fact that Jacobs had also had quite a bit of experience with them.
That's all. Thank you. Good work. I'm glad to see this. And that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Anybody else? Okay, anybody in the audience have any questions for Mr. Anderson or Councilor McLaughlin? Sorry.
No, go ahead and ask questions of the people in the audience.
Anybody have a question? Okay, go ahead, Councilor McLaughlin.
All right, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to make this motion. I move to authorize the city manager to enter into contract number 2022-002 for the purchase of pipe with Core and Main LP in an amount not to exceed $951,882.45.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin and seconded by Councilor Randall to authorize the city manager to enter into the contract for the purchase of the pipe for the Dog River pipeline. Is there any discussion, any more discussion?
I just
Councilor
want
Randall.
to add for all of us that have the same opinion, to see this finally really starting to roll forward is just a great thing. Thank you, Dave Anderson and your team. And this is a big step for our community.
Thank you.
I also agree. Thank you very much, David.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand or
Scream.
signify by saying aye.
McLaughlin, aye.
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 Let the record and the minutes show an enthusiastic endorsement of the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The final item for, and this is a discussion item, is the 2040 visioning for the city of the Dalles. Ms. Kruger, are you going to take this on?
Yes, thank you. I could say none of you are more excited about that last motion than Dave Anderson. I think he works in his sleep right now trying to get everything done for that project. As you know, this is one of the council's top goals, was to complete the vision plan during this current fiscal year. And we had some slowdowns due to COVID and having to postpone some meetings, but our consultant, Barney and Worth, did a really great job. And also Alice Cannon from our planning department worked very hard on getting the word out for this community survey, and they got some excellent results. So we wanted to keep this moving. Originally, the city council wanted to kind of get this adopted by April. So when you have a new city manager come in, it will be ready, and then they can meet with the council and you can begin your goal setting for the year a little late this year. So it was really important. However, now Councilor McLaughlin and also I heard from Councilor Richardson this morning that they had received some concerns about maybe we're fast tracking it too much. And so Alice reached out today to Aubrey from Barney and Worth, and she will give her presentation this evening, but she's also going to present to you an alternative plan that stretches it out just a bit. I think we can easily still get it done in May, but to alleviate the concerns about rushing, because we also don't want to do that. So I will turn it over to Aubrey, where I saw her here.
Yes.
Hi, there you are. And Aubrey will give you a presentation and then an alternative plan, and then the city council can discuss if they accept it or not, or if they want to make some changes. So Aubrey.
Perfect. Yes, so I'm Aubrey Koenig with Barney and Worth, and had two things we wanted to do. Got just like 10 slides, and I know this is the end of the evening, so I'll try to keep this brisk. But two things we wanted to accomplish. One is just share some of the takeaways from the initial phase of community engagement that we did after starting the visioning process at the end of last year. Wanted to give you some of the feedback highlights from that first phase of the process, and then look forward to what the second phase of engagement would look like, which we could lean into, in the coming weeks, and then have that complete plan in the spring. So I'll dive in here. So a couple of things, wanted to share a little bit about who we heard from and what we heard. And these slides were included in the council packet too, so they're there for reference. There's also some more details in a summary report that includes and content from the survey highlights. So we had 439 total responses. Those were collected between November 8th and December 9th. And of course, our intent with that was to hear from as many local voices as possible. You can see from the chart that 80+% are folks who live in the Dells, 50+% are folks who work in the Dells, and we had some who own and operate businesses, as well as those who live and play in the Dells. So kind of a nice diversity round package of community input. And I'll note that the November 8th, that said November 23rd in the packet detail, that was a typo there. We launched the survey on the 8th. All right, so how did we get the word out? Have a list here of things that we did, press release to local media. You've got folks on the line tonight who helped us spread that word, city webpage announcement, social media. Mayor Mays, you joined us for a video spot. We got your face out there on social media. Had a chance to do some English and Spanish social media posts. Thanks to Alice, a really robust MailChimp distribution list to help get that word out. Flyers at local businesses where folks could use a QR code and get to the survey information. So real credit to staff and also to community partners who really helped push the word out with all these different channels. So a big thanks to everybody who lent a hand. So what did we hear? This is kind of the summary version, and then I'm going to dive into a few of the results from specific questions that we asked after this slide. But did want to start here with just some general takeaways. I don't know if there's really any surprises here for you. The first one is upgrading the high school and public health facilities. You heard a bit on that topic and strategies that are underway from Kenny's presentation earlier tonight. The second one was really support affordable housing opportunities and small business diversity. So, a range of places to live and work for community members, both to sustain your residents now and to continue to draw and retain new residents. The third one, paths, trails, river access, all of these things that connect the community and give people a way to get outside and enjoy the things that they love about the area. That was a common theme. We also heard a bit on downtown and that vitality, both as a way to kind of a centerpiece of the community to draw residents, but also as a way to draw visitors to the community. And as mixed use development, places to gather. Some of the ideas that came forward were a type of community plaza. The development content ranged from suggesting, maybe a health food store downtown or different kinds of housing, just things to really create, again, vibrancy and diversity. And the final bullet here, honoring the diverse history with family-friendly cultural events. So food, farmers markets, music events, different ways to celebrate the history of the Dalles. So I'm going to dive into some specific questions that we asked. We asked folks what they appreciate the most about the Dells, and these top three were incredibly consistent throughout our survey responses. So Columbia River, friendly hometown feeling, and unique history really rose to the top across the board. And some of the write-in comments, around things like climate and location, again, kind of echoed in some of the other responses that we saw. Another question we asked was how would folks rank the Dells on a scale of 1, lacking some of the things that they need, to 7, having everything they need. And again, average ranking of 3, and that shows potential for improvement. The good news there is that there's a lot of alignment around what that might look like. So I'll skip into the next couple questions. So what does the Dells have now that I want more of was one question we asked folks. The themes that came forward there: restaurants and retail shops, community events and family activities, parks, paths, and trails. You're seeing the themes on the bullets on the left of the screen, and then some of the representative survey quotes on the right of the screen. And that the retail shops and restaurants, again, really comes back to diversity. So we saw a range of things from some folks thinking about like a Target or a box store of some sort to just more types of shoe shops and places to get clothes, things both for residents and visitors to the community. We asked a variant of this question, which is, what do you think is missing or should be improved? And you see restaurants and retail show up again, parks, paths, and river access shows up again. And you also see the schools, interest in schools and youth activities, and then the housing opportunities come forward with this question. So I just have 2 slides left. So we also asked folks to get a little bit more specific and think about the next 5 years and the most important programs or projects that they think the city and partners should invest in to keep the community vibrant. The bullets in blue are themes from community feedback that we received through this first phase of engagement. The bolded text is actually the focus areas that you guys have consistently used in past visioning processes. And it turns out that that framework is pretty reflective of the kind of input that we got this time around too. So I won't revisit the details here, but just so you know that this is where we want to launch our next phase of engagement. It's kind of thinking about these focus areas, the top themes that came forward from the community input, each of those focus areas, and then launching into, look forward, a virtual community town hall and another online survey to further refine and prioritize those vision ideas. So the timeline you're seeing on the slide here is updated from what you saw in the packet. And we've, again, as Julie said, kind of stretched that out a little bit, looking at still a late April or early May final adoption, but giving some more time for folks to get the promotion and the word out about that community town hall. And then also having another survey opportunity for people to provide input. So that was my trying to be quick at the end of the evening run through of this content. I'm going to stop sharing and give a chance for any discussion questions.
Thank you, Aubrey. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to start with the updated schedule and talk about that, or first maybe have the council discuss whether they feel we're on the right track to finish it up with this type of a schedule. Is there something missing? Those kind of things.
Why don't you, if I could ask Aubrey to put that schedule back up so that everybody can see it. And it looks like it's been 2 weeks. Is that pretty fair? An extension of basically a 2-week period.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. For example, the original virtual community town hall was originally on February 23rd, and now we're talking about March the 9th, and that's two-week period. So let's get into the schedule. What's the city council think about this delayed schedule for 2 weeks? Comments?
I think it's much better
Yep.
to put that much to give more time.
Thank you.
I'm much
Councilor.
more comfortable with this, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a much more appropriate timing, in my opinion.
And as I review Lisa Navera and Judy Merrill's request that we take a longer look, and this answers that. So I think we're very responsive in that. We just need to follow up with these two individuals and ask them to be a part of this visioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Runyon.
No, this is much better. But I would just give people heed that no matter what date you pick, there's always going to be some that miss it.
Mhm.
So the real key is, what are we going to do to get this out to the public immediately, other than our meeting tonight, obviously, but making sure that it gets on the radio and local print, internet groups, to the 2 newspapers, et cetera, so that we get the word out. Just, it goes without saying, but it needs to be said. Let's make sure that we're on this and get it out there. And I'll guarantee you that at the end of it, there'll be somebody saying, I didn't know anything about this. But that's just part of the deal.
And I think at the last meeting Alice and Aubrey and I had together, we had already been developing a plan on how to get that word out, which would be similar to the tools that we used the first time, which was pretty successful, and then chatted that in the community as well. Do you agree with that, Alice and Aubrey?
Yes, Mayor and Councilor Runyon. Yes, we have a 600 name email list that we sent out the word about the survey. We got a lot of responses directly, immediately after sending that email. So I feel pretty confident I would welcome you. However, I kind of pulled that thing together organically Paula Webb and I did that together. So there may be some names that are missing. So I would welcome you to send me names and or lists of some of your community organizations that that you would like to see included, and we'll make sure we'll get them included. I'd like to begin outreach. I talked to Aubrey today, beginning tomorrow, not tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll get the Facebook post and the email out and just start getting word out here within a day or two.
You could do a traditional press release too, get it out to all the radios and newspapers.
Yeah. I have a question for Aubrey.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Long.
Oh, thank you. Aubrey, so I see you're muted again, but what for a town of this size and this kind of visioning process, do you have an estimated like goal of people we should be aiming to reach and get to participate?
We were actually pretty happy with those first results. I think, we're always excited to have more, but I feel pretty good about the numbers that we got through that first survey process.
Okay.
Yeah, if that helps get to the question.
Yeah, just thinking for the virtual town hall for the next level. So you're looking for about the same amount of participation?
Yeah, and I think the town hall is a chance to be a little more interactive and dynamic in the conversation, but then we will launch into another survey opportunity. So the town hall participants could, also chime in on the survey, or they could become kind of, hopefully ambassadors for the process and help us spread the word about the survey to additional community members. So the second survey, I would like to see the same or better numbers on that as we move into, I think that was end of March. And then, yeah, the town hall. The other thing we are looking at there is a chance to have some, in that virtual space, a larger group gathering, but also some discussion groups that folks could opt to join into, where they could dig a little deeper into the content. And those would be potentially hosted or facilitated by staff or others maybe from this group who want to take part in those conversations around those areas.
So like virtual breakout rooms, is that what you're thinking? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Cannon, did I understand that you sent an invitation to participate in the survey to 630 people, and is it fair to say 430 of those responded? Do I understand that correctly?
I would, Mayor, that sounds wonderful. I like that. I like that tagline. That's a good messaging. However, I think that I would hazard to guess that not all 600 folks responded to the survey. We also got word out through other channels, Facebook and other ways. I know that a few of us walked around and shared the survey with businesses and residents, and so we had an opportunity to connect one-on-one with folks. So, and I asked a number of people to share the post on their own personal Facebook sites as well, so that there was quite a few different ways that and I was on the radio twice as well. So yeah, there were quite a few ways that we have promoted it. I wouldn't say it all came from that email.
Okay, thank you. And Aubrey, I'd like to refer to page 4.
Sure.
What we heard, key themes, starting with upgrade high school and on, were those listed in order of the number of people that mentioned that? Or is that just the top 5? Did you?
Right. So the high school really does rise to the top. There's they're not completely 1 through 5 in terms of order, but high school is definitely at the top, and the cultural events I think is echoed throughout, but not as much of a priority in terms of what people brought forward. So it's not a complete 1 through 5, but it's close.
Okay, the public health facilities is listed with the high school.
Yeah. So, and that's maybe, it feels like an odd pairing. Those were both identified as kind of existing, public service spaces that could use some modernization and update to better serve the community. So I would say, while they're not kind of the same physical space. The request there was, we have these things existing in our community and we want to make sure that they're, modernized and able to continue serving our residents.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the staff or Ms. Koenig? I think it's fair to say that the city council has given the staff the direction of proceeding with the process with the 2-week extension and the dates. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
I did see Judy Merrill raise her hand. I don't know if you're taking comments, questions.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, but I just want to make sure the council didn't have any other questions or comments.
Okay.
Okay, I'll open it up to the members of the public. Ms. Merrill, did you have a question or a comment? You have to wait for the city clerk to unmute you. There you go.
Thank you. I didn't know if we were allowed to ask questions, but I do have, I'm really, this is an exciting time, I think. And I have a question regarding this survey, and I'm wondering if there is a way to really get out to the more of the community and not just this the 400 people that responded and the 5 Spanish-speaking people. It sounds like, I don't know, it just sounds like, I'm wondering if a survey could go out to everybody, a total mail out to the community, like we have with different city news and such. I mean, people that are not businesses, people that don't do Facebook, people that don't do virtual Zoom meetings, people that live in apartments that are working people. I'm just trying to look at the whole our community. We have what, 15,000 people living here, and then was it 5 people, Spanish-speaking people that responded? Was that it? And I'm wondering about that piece, and yet on the flip side, there is a desire to have cultural events. Well, cultural events consist of people other than all of us at the Zoom meeting. And I'm just wondering how to, if you're going to outreach to the whole community, the diverse community of our town, and in a language that they can relate to. I mean, all of us can relate to. If I was be asked, what is my vision for the town? But for uneducated people, in regards, when I say uneducated, people that are not involved in the day, issues that we're talking about tonight, how to reach them and how to talk in a language that they understand and that it's inviting to them and engages them to answer this survey.
Yeah,
I really commend you for doing what you're doing. I hope I'm not sounding critical. I'm just wondering.
No, very good points. Julie, did you want to answer that? Or?
I don't really have an answer to it. I appreciate Judy's comments. I would just say that the 5 people that you refer to were people who responded to the survey in Spanish because it was available in 2 languages. So it's very possible that a lot of the people in the other group, the 400 people, could have been responding to the cultural, but they spoke English, so they chose to fill out the English survey. So we don't know how many of that majority wanted cultural events that were or were not of a Native American or Hispanic or some other cultural opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you. And one thing, I did not receive a survey. I actually got the survey from a friend of mine, and she emailed it on to me. I don't do Facebook. I don't do social media. I don't listen to the radio.
Oh.
So
Where do you get your news? What do you do for local to find out what's going on locally? That might be helpful to us.
The 2 newspapers and
Okay.
talking and talking to friends.
Okay, thank you. That'll be helpful, I think.
Anybody else in the audience that would like to ask a question or make a comment? Oh,
Roger.
Mr. Nichols? Sheila, you just hold on a second.
Okay,
Go
thank you.
ahead.
Just a small suggestion. One of the ways to reach a lot of people in the city would be put an insert in your water bill.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it goes to just about every homeowner. And I don't know if it would cost you to increase the postage on it, but if you put just a single sheet with these few questions on it, you might be able to get away with the postage you're already spending at no additional cost other than a little staff time. Thank you.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Good idea.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody else?
No, that was the question I was waiting on.
Okay.
The water bill. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just have one
Okay, go ahead. Ms. Mayor.
to Roger, what he had to say. And maybe on that's a great idea. And maybe on that flyer say, please don't throw this away, read first. Make it fun, so people will read it instead of just ditching it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Once again, I want to make sure the staff feels they have adequate direction.
Yes, we do. And we appreciate those comments. Those are both, it's really important for us to know if we want to improve the turnout of the survey, although we felt it was a good representation for a survey. It's helpful to know what other people are thinking and how other people receive information about their town. So we'll work to include those in our survey when we roll it out. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Alice, and thank you, Aubrey, for your contributions to our discussion, and also Ms. Merrill and Mr. Nichols as well. Okay. Last call for anything regarding this particular subject. Okay, is there any other business to come before the city council? Okay, I'm sure everybody will be rushing to take their loved one out for dinner or buy them an expensive present if you haven't already. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And I would like to adjourn this meeting as of right now. Thank you all for attending.